Hi there folks. Right, so I'm delivering a presentation looking at automating metal and wood framing with the Strucsoft for Revit. Okay, now we're presenting a few of these webinars, both myself and my colleagues, throughout the year. And if you'd like to see what's coming up in the future, then if you go to our website there, a web address there, it'll take you to the calendar, or you can scan the QR code there. That will also take you to the calendar. So yes, get yourself registered so you get advised of what's coming up, and also you can look at the recordings of the previous sessions. You don't have to go back and have a look at those. Okay, so a bit about me then. So my name is Steve Crow, and I've been with Greytech now since January 1989, so it's about 36 years or so with the company. And my role with the company is training and support, help and implementation, customization, that kind of thing, both with AutoCAD and the flavors of AutoCAD architecture and so on, and Revit architecture, and then the Revit MEP, which is mechanical, electrical and piping. And I've recently taken on the Strucsoft framing software, which goes hand in hand with the Revit architecture software, so you can frame your models quickly and easily using Strucsoft. Okay. In my spare time, or what little spare time I seem to have, enjoy getting out on my motorbike or paragliding. And in the DIY department, there's always something to do around the house in the DIY department. I'm also a beekeeper as well. I've got 9 beehives out in the garden at the moment. And there's nothing I enjoy more than getting up on the hills with my lad there, hiking up the hills or the mountains. That's up at the top of Ben Nevis in Scotland in April time. So there's still quite a lot of snow up there in April time. So yes, that's the intro. Let's dive into the presentation. Framing with MWF in Revit. I'm going to be having a look at how to load in your LGS or your light gauge steel sections and your timber sections, how to load those in to be able to use them for the framing. Look at some basic framing techniques. Okay, how to frame up your Revit walls, and setting up some standard framing templates. If you create templates, make your life a lot easier. Once you've created your templates, you can use a tool called Quick Create. And then if you have multi-layer walls where you're looking at sheathing, that's your plasterboard, and your, maybe with plywood sheathing, that kind of thing, you can use multi-layer templates. And then on the corners, you can set up auto join markers for the corners, so you can get the configuration right, whether it's timber or LGS on the corners. And then what I'll do is at the end there, I shall put up my contact details. So if you have any questions, you can email me, drop me a message or whatever, and I can get back to you with the answers. Okay, so that's the slide I'll put up at the end of the presentation for you to have to scan, or you can jot it down there now if you wish, but I'll put it back up at the end. Right, so I'll come out of the presentation there and nip into Revit. So here we are, I'm in Revit 2025 here with the MWF loaded up. In my case, I've got the MWF Pro suite, which includes the wood and the light gauge steel. Now, this model here, you can see, take a look inside this Revit model. That's one of the other views here. You can see it's quite a comprehensive model. It's got a heating system in there, pipe work, duct work, and that kind of thing. Light fittings, the whole lot in here. So you may well need to coordinate with these other disciplines. And there, for example, you can see the duct work is going through the wall, and there'll be a hole there in the wall, which will also need framing out. so you can frame around your ductwork and pipework there going through the walls. Okay, now obviously your framing is going to be going into the walls. So in order to see the framing, what we need to do there really is to set the walls to be transparent. Okay, so that's one of the first things you do, is set your wall to be transparent. Now you can do it either per wall, like you can with most properties in Revit, or if I go into my visibility graphics, come into here, scroll down, there's the walls layer, set the transparency, make it about 80% transparent. I'll go for 60% transparent, so you can see through the walls. You'll see there. Now there is some framing already in here. We're having a bit of a play with this, you can see in there. So now, with the transparency turned on, you can see the framing in the walls there. In some of the walls, not all of them. Now when you receive a model, before you can start framing, because the architectural model may not have any of the MWF configuration in there, your standard corners, configurations, and standard setup for MWF, and some of the defaults. So the first thing you need to do before you do any framing, it's been done here already obviously, but nothing's stopping you. Go and do it again, go to the settings. So I'm on the MWF tab there, look on the ribbon, go to settings and do a load data. Okay, now this will bring in the standard framing components and your standard MWF components and load those in. It'll probably come and tell me they're already in. You see it has look. So if I just do an apply to all, I'll just override them. And it's going to bring in the data that's required for basic framing. Okay. So it's loading it in there. And you may well have set up your own data as well. Okay, so there we go. So that's loaded the data in, so we can do some basic framing now. Okay, now what I would recommend is you identify the walls that are in this project that you need to frame and draw a section of the wall outside the building so you can test the framing around openings like doors and windows and that kind of thing. Don't be, well, you can, but it's easier and simpler to do it on a spare piece of wall, as it were. So let's see what we have in here. If I hover over a wall here, look, this one here is an exterior 100mm metal stud with panels. So if I select this wall in here, look, up on the ribbon, it comes up and there's an option there to do a create similar. So I can create a section of this wall just outside the building, out the way of the model itself, the project. So I can frame that up and see how it looks. So that's one of the internal walls. Now I think there's a thicker wall in here, if I can select it. That one there. So there's a 150 one. A 150 wall there, look. And again, a create similar. I'll draw a section of wall over here. There we go. And this external wall here as well. Exterior brick on metal stud. I'll select this wall and a create similar. I'll draw a section of this wall outside here like this. And there we go. Now I've got a section box on here, so it's chopping off the top of these walls. So I'm just going to make sure that we can see your top tracks and that kind of thing. So it's not if it slices it off, we won't see the top tracks. So starting at floor 1 there, and off to the 0, and I'll set the height to go up to floor 2. 0 offset. Actually, I put in -500, I think. So a box. There we go. Can I do these both at once? Yeah, there we go. Look, top constraint. Let's say go up to floor 2. with the top offset of -500. So just so, as I say, we can see the top tracks. We put them in, and so that we can see the framing around openings such as doors and windows. I'm just going to select a window here. Look, create similar, and I'll pop one window into there, and a window into there, and a window into this one as well. Okay, so we can see how it frames around those. I'm just going to hover over a door there, click onto a door, create similar, and place a door into that piece, that panel. I might stretch that wall a bit longer. Door into that panel there, and I'll put a door into that panel there. So you can see how it frames around those. I'm just going to make this wall a bit longer here. There we go. Right. Okay. Now, you need to check your wall family to make sure it's set up correctly for framing. And to do that, it's just looking at the type properties in Revit, edit type, and the construction of the wall at the top there, look, do an edit on that. And we can see here, the important thing to be watching for here is where your core boundary is. And your core boundary needs to be each side of the structural layer in here. You can see there, structure 1, metal stud layer, and it's 150 wide. Okay. Notice all in this particular one, we're going to be doing some multi-layer walls with NWF to put the sheathing on. You can see we here have on the outside, on the inside of the building, 13mm plasterboard, and outside of the structure there's some plywood sheathing there, 19mm ply there. Okay, and one is a substrate and the other one is a finish. They can be both substrates or both finishes, doesn't matter, but if you have them different functions, then when you come to producing your shop drawings, you can say produce the finished shop drawings or produce the substrate shop drawings. Otherwise, it's going to be all bundled together, your plywood, your plasterboard. So just need to watch out for that. So OK on that one, OK on nothing to change on that one. We may have had to move the core boundary layers around. So if I go to look at the other one here, look, here we go. There's the core boundary each side of the structure. This one is a 150mm metal stud in this one. So that's all good on that wall. And finally, this last wall here, double check on this one. Edit type. So the last one is a 150 wall. What's this one? And this is a 100 metal stud. So, OK on that. So all is looking good on the Revit families. Now the next thing you need to do is to load in the stud work that you're going to be placing into these walls. So this is just loading in your Revit families like you would load any other family in there. Now with MWF, you get a whole library of families of studs, all sorts of setups. So it's just insert tab on the ribbon. There it is, load family. Click. And it's just like any other family. And the library that comes with NWF, you have a metric and imperial library. I'm working in metric on this particular model. It's the metric library, and it lists these two folders here. You have some, if you like, generic standard parts, C sections, timber section, that kind of thing, but also manufacturers sections. So if you work with a particular manufacturer using their profiles, using their sections, you can see in here we've got to Merino ware, for example, Howick, Chemco. I'll scroll down. Some more Clark Dietrich there, look as well. Also there's some frame CAD and so on. So yes, there's a library of manufacturers sections there. I'll go back up one level, go to NWF standard, and you can see in here there's a whole library of, if you like, generic standard sections. So you've got timber in there, look, dimension lumber. So I just double click onto that. And it's just like loading any other Revit family, nothing different in that regard. But make sure you load in the sections that you require to frame these walls out. Now, in this particular case, I've loaded them all in already. So I've got a 150C section and a 100mm C section. I think this uses a 150 as well. So there we go. We've now got the families loaded up, the data's loaded up. So we can start framing now. We can start framing these walls. Now, there's nothing automated has been set up as yet. But if I go and select one of these walls, look, this is the 100mm wall. I'll go up to the NWF, and up here I can say, create some framing. So on the wall model panel there, create some framing, create. And it comes up with this dialog box here, and I can just say, go ahead and create. And it may throw any old size in there. I haven't defined the sections that need to go in this wall as yet. It's just going to frame it up using the default options. If I just pan to one side, you can see in there, it's got some framework in there already. And in this properties dialog box, this is the properties of this panel, which you can nip into at any time. You don't have to do the create button. So I've gone into here, I can see in here the studs, horizontal and vertical, and your tracks, and you have a list of sections here. Now these were the sections that's been loaded in. Okay, so you can see in there's a 100mm section 150 and a heavy gauge 150 there, and timber in there as well. Some of the ones I loaded in earlier on. Some C channel in there, and so on. So in this particular case, this is a 100 one, so select the 100 section there, and the same for the vertical studs, and so on. Now, around the openings, so yes, all sorts of settings on this tab here. On the structural tab there, more settings you can tweak and change in here. On the miscellaneous tab, this is what I'm interested in, is looking at the openings. How is it going to frame the openings? Here we go, do an edit there, look. And looking at the openings, you can tell it in there for your doors. Well, we'll start with the windows. You can see around the windows, again, it's a 100mm section. Or you can say use it for all the openings. So it disables this top one. But you can set your doors and your windows to be different if need be. Look, there's a different section there for the doors. You may have a requirement to have different sections on doors from windows, for example. But I'm just going to say on the windows there with the 100mm, on the sills and the framing, I'm just going to say use the same for all the openings, just for simplicity's sake in this case. Okay. And then okay on that. So we've set the framing for the studs and the tracks. We've set the framing for the openings. I can say apply this now, and it will change those sections if need be. So if they weren't that initially, they will be now. And we can also save this away to make it easier when we're framing later on. If you click on the template tool there, look, it lists the templates that are in this project already. And if I'm to create a new one in here, for example, so there we go. What I could do there is I could copy an existing one. So I go for the light gauge one there and copy and give the new one a name. A test template, and it's 100mm studding, and okay on that. Highlight that one, and I can update it with the current settings. And if I set as active, that's the one it's going to frame that one with. Now, close on that, and you can see it's got the sections in there already. I can do an apply and an OK on that. So I have framed that. I then chose the correct section for the frame. I then save that away as a template and then do an OK on that, and then just frame that up nicely. I'll zoom into here. If I highlight that section there, look, you can see that is the 100mm section. Now around the windows, it's also framed them up there, look. You've got your top tracks and your bottom tracks. You have full control over how it frames this in terms of the cutbacks on the cripples, and the headers, how many headers you have, and so on. If you have your own configuration, you can either use the default ones in the system, or you can create your own configurations for the corners and such like. Let me just turn off these doors. Well, no, I'll frame this other one along here. And if I select this one here, let's frame this one up. So if I say create, and it will frame it up. If I select a template, so this is the 150, there it is, with a lighter gauge steel. Set as active, and close, and create, and it goes away and frames that one with a 150 stud, because that template is already created there. Excuse me. Again, it comes up and says, do you want to have a go at modifying those? No, that's all okay there. The miscellaneous tab, looking at opening framing, and on the openings there, look, used for all openings. There we go. It's 150, 150 there, look. That's all good. Close on that. And this is the 150 with a lighter gauge. I can say update it if I wish, if there's been any change to the settings. Close on that, and an OK on that. And it'll go away. If there were any changes to be made, it'll make those changes in there. Okay. Now if I just hide the doors with a VH, visibility hide, on the doors and the windows, and select a window there so we can look at just the framing, see what it's done with the framing. So there we go, look, you can see frames are showing there. This should be a 150, which it is, and around the windows as well. So you have full control of the configurations around the windows. But if these are manufactured in the factory, it may well be a bit awkward. Transporting this is going to be all a bit floppy and loose, with the potential that they get damaged in transit. It's not going to be very easy to lift this onto the transport. So you can configure the bottom tracks to say don't split them here, and they can be cut out on site. So if I select this panel here, look, and go into here and look at the properties. And on the miscellaneous, you see your tracks there, look. There's the bottom and top tracks. Edit. At the moment it's set, all sorts of configurations in here, look. On this, it's set to split the bottom track. Now if I say initially don't split it, OK on that, apply, and then do an OK on that. Excuse me. And you can see now, when it's manufactured in the factory, the bottom track is not split. It's much safer and easier to transport, less chance of any damage. It's more made for a more rigid frame. Get it to site, and if need be, cut that out later on. So that's in the properties of the panel there. Now you notice I can pick these members here, and yes, I can delete them, but they'll be still in the drawings database, in the projects database if you like. So you can't just delete using like the Revit delete tool. If you're going to be deleting panels, what you need to be doing ideally, what we need to do is use the delete tool there. So I've selected one of the members. If I pick onto the delete button there, look, it will delete the members out of this panel, and so it's reset the sequencing for any extraction of the lengths, that kind of thing, member details. So it's removed those members from the project, as it were. So yes, use those, the correct tools. Okay. So to create these template maps to automate panel creation, it's on the wall setup panel in here, and in there you go to the template map. You can see in here you can map, if you like, against the Revit wall type, and you can apply a template. So one of the templates we used a moment ago, where we created a template, so the template is whether there's track split, how it frames around the openings, the section size. So that was a template. So to help to automate the framing, we can map a template to a wall type in here. And that will allow us to use the quick create tool. Okay. So in here, I can say add in a Revit wall, and it will list the Revit walls in the project. So if I say there's a block of metal stud there, and then you can see that the structural layer is 200 thick, and then in here I could pick the appropriate template to match up with that wall. Okay, so let me show you how that works. I can see here for those 100mm metal stud walls, the interior walls, I've used this template here, and for the 151 that I just created manually a moment ago, it's here, look, the 150 template. I'm just doing okay on that. What it means is now I just delete this panel here, delete the members. What it means now is I could put a window across the whole drawing and then do a quick create with this button here, and it would filter out all those Revit walls and frame them accordingly. Now, I'm not going to do the whole drawing because some walls haven't got a mapping on them, and it'll kick up an error message saying cannot find a wall to apply the cannot find a template to apply to this wall style. So what I will do though, I'm going to select several walls of different makeups. There's one there, that's a 150, that's a 100, and if I can find that one there, there's a 100. So I'm selecting several walls here. Found one in, there's one in there, look. If I pick this wall as well, that's a 100. Okay, so you can see I could have done a right click select similar right through the project and framed up 60 walls at once or whatever. So with those walls selected, different wall families there, look, different wall styles. Come into here and using the quick create tool here, click. It now looks at those wall styles, looks at the NWF template mapping and applies the appropriate NWF template to the appropriate sized Revit wall. And it will frame those accordingly based on the settings in the template. Now you can lock the wall to the template so that if the template changes, then it will update the wall. If it's unlocked, then you can go and modify one panel to your heart's content. And there we go, you can see it's framed those walls up. Clear the selection. And you can see in there, it's applied to that particular wall there, the 100 section, and to this wall here, automatically applied the 150 section. So that's using that the template mapping there, which is really useful. Okay. So yes, Now, because we've created that mapping, we can use the Quick Create tool, as opposed to if we use the Create tool, we'd have to tell it which template to apply to each wall as we went around it. Okay. Now, with multi-layer walls, they're a bit different, because with a multi-layer wall, we can apply different templates to different parts of the the wall. Again, if I look at the edit wall type and look at the structure, like we were looking at a moment ago, there's our structure. So it's got a 150mm structure in there. I mentioned it before, 13mm plasterboard, and then some sheathing there, some plywood sheathing there as well. Okay, so if I cancel that, we have I'm doing okay on this, or I'll cancel on that, didn't change anything. Up on the ribbon, we have a wall multi-layer panel on the left there, look. And it's in here where you can set these up to tell it what to apply to a particular layer. So clicking onto the settings here, and this is where you set up your multi-layers. And again, just like before, it lists the walls in here that are in this project. And if I just find one in here, block and metal stud, I think. Well, just to show you. Brick. Where's the block one? That's brick on metal stud, block metal, just to show you. So here we go, look. You can see in there, you've got the makeup of the wall shown on the left here, and it shows the function as well. So what we can do is, it shows the material in here, and it shows the thickness of that particular layer. And here, you can go and select the template to apply. This is the MWF template to apply to each of those layers. So here, for example, where it says structure metal stud layer 152, if I pick onto this, and it's a structural layer, and I can say, okay, I'm going to put a 150 stud in there. Select, and there we go. So on that particular wall, it's going to put a 150 stud in there. For your plasterboard, look, there's 13mm plasterboard, okay? And in here, I can say, well, this is not structural, this is sheathing. And there's the plasterboard. Now I'll show you how to create these sheathing templates in a moment. That's upon this other button up here. If I select plasterboard to go in there, notice it doesn't have a thickness. So any of these sheathing materials pick up, if I don't select on that, pick up on the thickness of the Revit wall property there. So some plywood there, look, 19mm in this one here. I can say okay for this. I'm putting some marine ply. Again, there's no thickness there, so I'll do a select on that. So it's going to put that ply in at 19mm thick. So that's how you set up the multi-layers. Now, to actually define the sheathing, what we can do here is go to the sheathing templates, and there they are. Now you'll have something to work from in there already. Okay, so I select this, and I'm going to make a new one. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to call it gypsum wallboard. Gypsum wallboard. Whoops, can't spell. Gypsum wallboard. There we go. Now, how are we going to place these boards? What's the joints going to be like? Where do we start boarding? Is it horizontal, vertical? Whatever. We can go and modify the way that these boards are applied. And here is the dialog box for setting up the boards. Okay, so you can set, there's the family. So this is just a Revit family that's been loaded in. You can see in there, got some sheathing panels. Okay, and it shows up with all the other families in Revit, look. But, so this is just loaded in like any other family would be. I'll select it here, that's the family. And then you can set how it is applied. So you've got basic vertical tiled, horizontally tiled, staggered joints, vertically staggered joints, or optimized. So I'm just going to go for vertically tiled. Okay. And then what about the openings? How is it going to go around the openings? Now, again, sending it to site, you might not want any openings to make the structure more rigid when you're transporting. You say, ignore the openings, you'll board across them, board across the openings, and it can be cut out on site if need be. Alternatively, I can say, break the sheathing panels at opening bounds. There we go. And you see it's now put the splits on the edges of the openings. So the chippies on site, they're now not having to create any L-shaped panels. So they won't love you for having to create a panel like this and to cut it out like this. So if you say break the sheathing at the openings, you can now just run it through with the circular saw, cut it down to size on site if need be. So yes, various settings in here. I mean, you can set up your nails as well. I've not looked at the nails module yet, but all sorts of setting up your nail patterns in there. So yes, that's your sheathing. So do an OK on that, and I've done it break at the openings. OK on that. So that's my gypsum wallboard set up there. And you can set up as many as you want. Now again, notice there's no thickness set in there. The thickness, just to repeat what I said before, the thickness is set up by the Revit wall style. If I go back to my wall types in here, and this is one we're going to be using in a moment, exterior brick or metal stud, and you can see in here on the inside you have a plasterboard, and then there's a membrane, the metal stud layer comes in here. There's a template that was created earlier on, and then the marine ply in there as well, uniting the marine ply. Okay, so that is setting up a multi-layer wall. I do an OK on this. So that's nicely set up now. So now we need to be using these tools in here, look. So we have a quick create, a regen and a delete in here for multi-layer walls, plus a whole host of other tools in there for your multi-layer walls. So let's select our multi-layer wall here. Come to the ribbon tab there, look, operations, and we can do a quick create. And based on the template there, on the multi-layer template, it's now created a panel 10. And it's going to frame this up and put the sheathing there as well. Obviously a bit more work for it to do now. It's not just studs and tracks. Okay. And there we go. So let's frame that up. If I just spin it around and see, maybe see better on the other side there. And you can see the panels there, and they'll be split at the edges of the openings there. Okay. How did I set that to be transparent? Let me just check the transparency. Did I only do them individually? I'll set the transparency up to 80. There we go. OK on that. And OK on that. OK, just cancel that. If I tip this over a bit. So you can see the studs in there. It's almost like this one. Oh, I guess the sheathing's blocking out where we can see the studs. And you can see in there, look how the paneling, the plasterboard there is cut up the sides of the openings. So it's going to make it much easier to install on site. In that case, so yes, you can't see through to the studs there because of the boarding. So yes, so that's created those templates for your multi-layers templates, and also for these as well. So let's go back to another view here. I'm going to go to the O1 floor plan here, and again you can see the studs on the wall there. There they are. And you can configure how these studs appear around the openings and so on. And over here I've drawn some walls. I've got an L-shaped intersection and a T-shaped intersection here. And we're going to have a look at how you can control the joins on the corners. So what I'm going to do here first of all is to frame this up just with a quick create, because we have a template for these walls. Frame these up, and that's what it does. Quick create on those walls there. It goes away, selects the appropriate template for those walls, and puts the stud work in there. But let's see what it does on the corners for now. Let's see what it does on the corners. So yes, it hasn't done a very good job on the corners, has it? Now you can go and frame those corners correctly. If I select one wall there, look, with a control key, if I select this other wall, if I can find it, I've selected those two walls. So with those two walls selected, I can come up the ribbon here on the joins, I can put in the pull down list there, I can say place a join on this corner. Oh, maybe didn't pick both walls there. I think I just put a box through like that. It ignores the framing. Joins, place a join. That's a bit easier, look. So here we go, look. And it lists, it's basically saying, how would you like to join that corner? And you can see they got overlapping on the corners there to make the frame more stable, rigid. Various timber ones in there. Look at these. There's some LGS ones, various ways of configuring that corner. For now, I'm going to put this one in, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 members in that corner there, and an OK on that. And it places that configuration on the corner. Okay. If I zoom in, I'll just select the marker and move it out of the way. You can see there's 1, 2, 3, and those 4 members being placed on that corner there. Now, it may be you want it to be the other orientation. So at the moment, what it's saying is this vertical wall here is the main wall. You might want it to be the other way around. So if I select this marker, I come up to here, joins, and say, well, I want the main wall to be this one here. And it will rejig the corner based on your choice. Okay, so there we go. And it's rejigged that corner there to be facing the other way around. Now, that was obviously a manual way of placing those, those on there. So, I'm going to show you is how you can automate this using what's called the marker manager. You can set up a rule set. So you can delete this corner out here, delete out anything in this corner here, and we're going to set up some rule sets. So we don't have to mess around on every corner telling it which way the main wall is, what configuration to put in there. it can be all done through the marker manager. So up on the ribbon, there's your marker manager. And in the marker manager, you set up your openings and things. There's all sorts of configurations in here for your openings, how walls join, and different configurations here. Look, if the configuration that you want is not in here, you can create your own configurations for the corners and your own configurations for around the openings, that kind of thing. You can configure. These are all the ones that come with the program. Okay. So let's have a look here at these on the join tab. It lists them all in here. Look. Okay. So you can take this join here and you put it into the project and you can tell it how it joins these corners up. And the rule set can look at the size of the wall, so you can take precedence, so the wider wall takes precedence, the thicker wall takes precedence over the thinner wall, so that makes that the main wall. Or you can say the longest wall is the main wall, and so on. And in here, if I drag it out a bit, you'll see. So here we go. For any corners, it's going to use this particular join style. And if I just drag this box out a bit further, you can see in there. And that's when it's 100mm stud with 100mm metal stud panel. So you tell it the wall type, the join type, and in here, whether it's a corner, intersection, and so on. So these are what are called rule sets. So if I just do an OK on this, so I've got some rule sets in there already. I have deleted the existing corners out of there. And now we're going to use the auto join. So it'll be the joins are going to be determined by the size of the wall and the length of the wall as to how the configuration is set up on the corners. So the joins pull down. Here it is. There's the auto join tool. And there's the rule set. So it's saying select the rule set you want to use. I'm going to say the project panels auto join. Select that one. No, I should have actually picked the walls first. Cancel that. It's going through the whole project. Sorry about that. And if I go back into here, yes, select your walls first. It's always a good idea. Otherwise, I'm going to try and do it. I don't know how many joins are in this particular project. That was close. Auto join. That's better. Project panel select, and it goes away and frames them up on those joins with the particular configuration in that auto join rule set. Okay. And it'll place the members on the corner. And there we go. If I zoom in, I select the mark and move it out of the way so you can see what's going on there. And it's put that style of corner in there. So yes, so that's using rule sets and your auto join. So again, it's helping to automate this process and make your life easier when you're working with NWF. Now all this is shown in gone through in detail in our training courses. So we'll train you guys up how to set up these. Alternatively, we can do all the configuration for you if you tell us what your company standard is for these. Then we can put those standards together. So it's you simply a case of just picking those rule sets, picking those templates to frame your building up. So yes, let me just show that this one again, so you can get my details from there. I just display settings, swap. So there we go. If you have any questions or queries, there's my email address. And don't forget, if you scan the QR code there, it'll take you to our calendar of the historical events, which are all recorded and stored on our website, and the up and coming events as well. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Okay, guys, so enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you very much for attending.